What a week. I wasn't prepared for the root canal and gum surgery I ended up having this week. And I really wasn't prepared for this beautiful weather that we had this week. But I did take advantage of that. I drove north to DeSoto Bend, and my wife and I went up there, and it was a beautiful day. But such a stark contrast, because that much further north, all the leaves were down. The trees were just gray. And the earth and fields were just brown. It really looked like the end of the life cycle. You know, that dying cycle we see every year at the end of fall. But then it was 70 degrees, so my mind got all confused. But that's what it was like. Our gospel reading today tells us to stay awake. Well, I tried to stay awake on Tuesday night, but I didn't have enough oil to keep going and my lights dimmed out. And I went to bed and I missed all the excitement and all the noise and everything that was going on, because I didn't prepare and take a nap that afternoon. For many, this week seemed like the end of time. And I think for others, it feels like the beginning of paradise. All I know is that in this whole situation that we're in, God's in charge, and He's going to figure out everything, and all we have to do is be ready to pay attention to what He has to say. And this parable reading is one reading that is telling us that we need to prepare. We need to prepare because we do not know the day nor the time when the bridegroom will come. Whether we like it or not, we're all going to die. Now, like in the last 4 weeks, I have gone to 5 funerals, more than any time in my entire life. And it gives you time to think. I've had 6 people advise me via email that they've turned positive for COVID. And we wait for test results. And I've got some dear friends that are really being courageous as they carry on their lives with cancer. And I sit there and I wonder, but for the grace of God, go I. Tomorrow, any one of those things could happen to myself. Will I be ready when the bridegroom comes? Are you ready now? How are you fortifying yourself with the provisions that you're going to need? If either one of us would be a poor soul tomorrow, would we be ready to make that transition from this life to eternal life? You know, have we shared enough? Have we loved enough? Have we even loved ourselves for who we are? I have had many occasions to be with people, elderly people, and they keep telling me how unworthy they are at the end of their lives. And I'm reminded at our baptism, we become the beloved sons and daughters of the Father. And somehow we forget that. I think we think of ourselves as the prodigal sons and daughters who aren't even worthy to be the hired hands. But this gospel reading tells us we have the opportunity to prepare and to focus on the feast, to focus on the life that's ahead of us. For when the bridegroom comes and announces his presence and the doors are open, we can be ready to go. You know, the oil that is in our flask is the grace that we get from God. It's the grace we get when we love God and we love our neighbor. It's the grace we get when we live the Beatitudes or we do the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. It's the grace we get when we receive the sacraments. And that sacrament of reconciliation has the ability to fight off those things that want to deplete the oil in our flask. Because we want to be ready when that time comes. Now, all of us cannot rely on the spiritual capital that someone else has amassed. We can't rely on our spouse because they've done a lot of praying. You know, when it comes to that day, we can't look to our neighbor and say, hey, can I borrow a relationship with Christ from you? Or we can't say, can I borrow a moral character from you? A moral character is developed in our lives over time. And it's usually developed because we have fallen and we've gotten up again and we've tried and we've grown. Our relationship with God has developed because it grows too in our lives. All of that helps us prepare for a date and a time that is unknown for all of us. We do know from that second reading there is life after this life because Paul tells us Christ is going to come, and for all those that have fallen asleep, he will raise them along with all of us that are still on earth at that time. So there is that eternal life that we can look forward to. But the other thing in that first reading, what it tells us, is we have the opportunity to prepare by seeking wisdom. And we seek wisdom by seeking the truth. And Jesus has told us that when we seek the truth will set us free. The truth will help us get rid of discouragement, and when we're not feeling hopeful, it will bring in hope. So I think the things that we can do is to, right now, is we can prepare, we can pray, we can be open to the truth, we can trust in the resurrected life, and we can be the wise ones as we prepare for the bridegroom that is to come.